Phew,
Okay.
Yep. Let me just get my document to share.
Yep.
I've got into a bit of a fluster at the moment. Share screen. That's it.
The session today is on mentoring, and it will be run by our Division R Director, Clifford Kerr-Phillips. Please welcome Clifford. It's all yours, Clifford.
Okay. So firstly, can you see me? Or not see me? Can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Good. Excellent. And you can hear me. Good. So just before I kick off, I know Mark, who is trying to bring up your name.
Colin Bond is from Dannyburg Toastmasters.
Okay, and then there is
Sangeeta, who is from, speaking of Levin, but lives in Delhi, in India.
Ah, very good. So,
Hi.
so you're actually zooming in from India.
Yes.
Ah, very good. Well, welcome. Thank you, and welcome everyone else. Okay, so as you can guess, we're talking about mentoring, and I've put together a PowerPoint. Hopefully, this doesn't, well, it won't be any death by PowerPoint. Why? Because you are going to interact and come in whenever you want and say, no, I don't agree with this, or this is excellent, or whatever. So I'd like to make this as most interactive as possible. So my title screen is mentoring, and why mentoring? So I'm a member of 5 clubs, right? And in those clubs, there isn't, I'm not aware of, a formal mentoring program. Yes, mentoring certainly takes place at different levels. But what I've come to realize is that there are benefits from a formal mentoring program. And believe it or not, I don't have a mentor myself. I've actually shied away from mentors. And this is going to, I'm going to highlight one of the disadvantages of not having a mentor. It doesn't have to apply to Toastmasters, it applies to your general life. So in a Toastmaster environment, this is what I have actually come across. Just before renewals, a member sends in an email in the club at which I'm the president saying, I'm not going to renew my Toastmaster membership. And I think to myself, you know, if I, and it doesn't have to be me, but if I had been her mentor, I might have been able to prevent this from happening. Now, there are 2 objectives in what I'm talking about. And the first objective is well, a club doesn't want to lose its members. I think their members at the moment are quite scarce because of the Zoom and because of the COVID environment. More importantly, though, is I feel that this person was doing quite well in our club. Yes, and people can have a reason why they want to leave a club. They might move, they might run out of money, and they might get sick. They might change job and they need more time to do that. So there are very, very valid reasons. But what happened? What if this person had a mentor and was able to set out a program for this person to follow, which would have prevented this person from leaving? So that really resonates with me. The next is, in the same club, I'm aware that some member has been retained because someone became that person's mentor, formally became that person's mentor. Now, this person was from Sri Lanka. He is a computer wizard, programmer, and he said, honestly, why I'm still here is because Gail took the time to mentor me. So that's validation in my mind, 2 validations of why I think more has to be done about mentoring in my own mind and hopefully in yours. And then I put it in this particular slide because What are we in the business of in Toastmasters if we want to reduce Toastmasters to a business? In a golden bar, I feel Toastmasters is about trust and confidence. Now you might say, yes, I agree with confidence, but what about trust? And you might replace the word trust with leadership and confidence. After all, that's on our banners. But I deliberately use the word trust because to actually be able to lead people and be led and be a leader, trust plays a huge element. Trust happens first before you have leadership. When you become someone's mentor, there has to be, that's why I probably find it so difficult to have a mentor myself. You have to be able to trust that person almost without any reservation. Obviously, once you've got past that and you are into a mentor relationship and there is some success in that relationship, it doesn't have to be success as someone succeeding, and I'll touch on that later on as well. You get confidence, and we are in the business of confidence, definitely. Creating a better version of yourself. Your mentor, that's one of his objectives, in simple words, creating a better version of your mentee or protege. What are we in the business of? Trust and confidence. Right. So what is mentoring? How would you define mentoring? So I did extract this from some Toastmaster material on mentoring. I like this particular clause. Sophocles, a Greek philosopher. The ideal condition would be, I admit, that men should be right by instinct. So what he's saying is we shouldn't really need teachers. We should instinctually know what the right thing is, but it isn't like that. We are likely to go astray. The reasonable thing is to learn from those who can teach. We can achieve our goals faster and avoid making mistakes and wasting valuable time. Again, this is going to resonate further down the track. So what does a mentor do? Takes a personal interest in and helps an inexperienced person. Now, Toastmasters has changed their definition or use of the word from mentee to protege. That's why I've got it in a bracket there. Serves as a role model, coach, and confidant. So again, you can see that those words imply a significant amount of trust. This is an easy part, offers knowledge, insight, perspective, and wisdom useful to the mentee. Help someone become successful and learn new skills themselves. And in those words, become a better version of themselves.
Clifford?
Yep.
I find that a coach is slightly different to a mentor. A coach trains someone in a process.
Correct.
Whereas
Well, that's how I said.
A mentor, probably the best or a description would be a mentor enables a person to arrive at their destination by different paths, by asking what if all the time.
Yep. What is, Sagita, what do you feel about the difference between coaching and mentoring? How would you agree with that, or?
Yes, I feel a mentor is for a longer time and who helps you, who lives you, shows you perspective. And coach is somebody who, is there for a shorter time and tells you what to do. But a mentor really doesn't tell you exactly, okay, you do this. I think you're wrong, and so you should take this from me. He doesn't do that. He lets lets his protege delve into thinking and bringing out while he's guiding and supporting.
Okay, so, and Mark, do you want to add anything to that? You're on mute there, Mark.
Yeah. Am I sorry?
Yep, that's right.
Clifford.
Good
yes.
stuff.
Well, I sort of see all those, coaching being a mentor, being an advocate, being a counselor, all stemming from the same helping partnership relationship in which one person's endeavoring to help another person develop, develop their confidence, that sort of thing. So, and coaching basically is specific, like a basketball player. If you want to improve your player, you've got to listen to the coach. Whereas a mentor is there to, I think, stimulate the protege's own thinking tasks so that they can develop and expand skills, in that way. The objective is for the protege to actually advance, develop, personal skills, or the skills that protege wants to achieve, such as in a business, he might want to achieve a professional style of communication and presentation. And my job as his mentor would be to say, well, what do you know about it? Find out what he wants to do and advance that, but share with him my experiences. Right. I think all of them have the same thing where there's an expert, but somebody who's walked the talk, walked the road, not someone who just says it, but someone who's actually does it. Because I know in my mind, I know a lot of theory, but I've not actually had the practical experience. And that person can share with the protege those insecurities, if you like, all those experiences he's had, the ups and downs. And from that, the protege will learn it's not a smooth road, that you'll be experiencing these sort of things. But to me, it's a partnership, mentorship.
A few years
ago, you help that other person develop their potential. That's it. Develop their potential, and so that individual can hone into their own originality, creativity, those sort of things, establish, confidence and trust.
A few years ago, I coached a Toastmaster, a young Toastmaster in contest.
I think the sound's gone off.
She was able to, it was more about honing her presentation skills. But it was a specific thing. We coached her in the process of how to get through to district level. Mentoring is, to me, is slightly different, that you don't do any of the work, you just you get the protege to look at their goals from different angles and decide for themselves which is the better way to go.
Okay, so I think there's been some very good sort of dialogue into the difference between mentoring and coaching. I would just add that I see coaching as, if I'm coaching someone, I'm giving him a technique or a plan or a skill to do something specific for a short-term objective. Whereas mentoring, I'm not giving the person a plan or a technique, although I might do that in my mentoring. I'm just saying to the guy, where are you going? What do you want to do? And how can I help you, sort of idea in your objective? What are your objectives? Let's see how we can help you. And it's not for me to actually say, well, kick the ball this way into the net. We use what he does and how we can upskill that further. Okay, so let's press on there a bit. So mentorship program. So this is an interesting slide which I found, and if you can follow my little cursor, Otto von Bismarck at the bottom, allegedly. Now, Bismarck was this guy who invented the term realpolitik, the ends justify the means. Just in the direction that this particular quote goes, I don't think that's what we're doing in Toastmasters. We're not having the ends justify the means. In fact, we're trying to steer away from that as much as possible. And we see how that comes into play. So in New Zealand, and Sangeeta, I don't know if you might have experienced this, being a person that's in and out of New Zealand. I find that and I'm an immigrant to New Zealand, the culture is understated. I love the culture we have here in New Zealand. It's understated. And I've left, our culture is understated, less direct than ... Now, I'm not going to name the actual nation where that ... or country that ... refers to. But I do feel that some of the actual directives in the Toastmaster base, like learning knowledge base that they have on mentoring, are too direct. And it is too mechanical. And it is like the sausage machine that I have in front of you here. I think it's more to do with a practical approach, being sensible, being sensitive, and subtle. Now, subtle would mean that there might be some underhand or a negative underplay here. It's not. Subtle means that you don't, in this context, it's not something that you are in the mentee's face, the new person in the club's face straight away saying, hey, I'm going to be your mentor and I'm going to put you up on Facebook that I'm your mentor and then you're my protege and I'm going to tell everyone this and I'm going to have your meeting in front of everyone. No, that's not the subtleness that I'm talking about. That's too direct. That's too unsubtle. I'm saying you'll see how we touch on being sensitive, subtle, and sensible. So just to reiterate it, this is not a sausage making factory. Although it's a mentorship program, it's not a sausage making factory, right? All right, so the next slide, learning by default. And this is what happens, I feel, that when you don't have a mentor. So we all know what happened to the Titanic. They built a ship that the rudder couldn't turn the ship quick enough. The captain decided to take a chance and open up a boiler and get to America faster. He went against the advice of his first mate, and he hit an iceberg. And there weren't enough lifeboats by design that people took off their lifeboats on the ship, and people died as a result of that. That is what I call is default learning. It is very powerful and it is very slow. But what happened after the Titanic? Ships had to be redesigned. There had to be more lifeboats on the deck. There had to be drills to happen as well, and safety was taken at a higher value. That's learning by default. In a Toastmaster environment, the icebreaker situation is an example of where people sometimes, I feel, learn by default. You'll have a new member coming into a club and he gives his icebreaker, and sometimes you'll hear the whole life of this person in 7 minutes, and he tries to squeeze it into 7 minutes, and that's just too much. And I actually say to myself, Clifford, when you next know that someone's giving an icebreaker, even if they don't want to listen to you, even if you are going to be less subtle, go to them and say, don't pump all your life into 7 minutes. Just decide on one area what you're going to talk about and use the other material that you've left out in your speech. Don't worry about it. You can use that material in speeches to come. Be more relaxed. Just take a certain theme, my family, my education, my achievements, and talk about that and only that. And don't try and put everything together in your icebreaker. So here, you'll see here that we have a bird with a parachute on his, excuse me, I went forward one slide. Hang on there, guys. I was just trying to move the box at the top there. It's come out under the thing. Anyway, so it's a bird jumping off a tree. Let's try to light the parachute. No, that's not the environment that we're getting into. We want the parachute on there, and we want the guy to be as comfortable, and the woman to be as comfortable as possible in their icebreaker environment. So what does it mean to do? Okay, so these are questions. I was going to ask us to go through this, but I think if I go through these, and if you want to add more, please do. Creates opportunities for growth. In a Toastmaster environment, we want people to grow in pathways, to grow in the icebreaker, to grow in their ability to trust you, and for you to trust them in a Toastmaster environment. You want to develop their abilities and strengths. You want to make, not learn, you want them to learn from their mistakes and seek improvement every time. You want a personal interest. So this is where it's now actually moving from a as I see it, moving from just a normal club environment, you're actually making connection with the person outside the club environment. So it's actually getting deeper, that actual particular relationship. And I think that's a good thing. So you are looking at your own values and how you value learning and growing, which I think is important. There are some resources, the extensive resources in pathways. I think it's at level 2, level 3, and level 4, all the way through on mentoring. So there's a lot of information there. And there's also some on the Toastmasters website. A very important aspect of what does a mentor do? They listen. So in other words, in some ways, you should be. When I was researching for this particular presentation, there was somebody who quoted 3 times 24. Let someone speak for 24 seconds. Think about it for another 24 minutes and only reply after 24 hours. So that might be going to an extreme, but that was a very good way of listening to what someone has to say, a plan, what he wants to put in place. And before you respond and say, no, this is not going to work or whatever, put those 324 into play, and you'll probably come up with a very considered and well-balanced response. And also, by becoming a mentor, you avoid default learning, which is a very slow process. Again, in some of the research I did for this presentation, there are probably 5 questions which actually set this out a lot more succinctly. What is it you're trying to achieve? What is that you're really doing well? What are you not doing well that is keeping you from attaining your goals? What will you do? This is probably a very important question. What will you do differently tomorrow to meet these challenges? And finally, the most important, after you asked all those questions, how can I help? What is it? At this point, at this juncture, is everyone okay with this?
Yeah. What I've found, Clifford, when I've been mentoring is that I will just keep them focused on the end result, but I won't try and change things. The questions I ask, what would happen if we did it, if you looked at it from this perspective? What if you did this? Could you see this? Could you see a different result if you did it this way? But always letting them decide. A mentor doesn't want to stifle the protege. They want them to blossom, but they want them to. They don't want. Well, I don't want to clone any protege of mine into another version of me.
Okay, Neville, thanks very much. I think that when they made you, they threw the mold away. Eh? No, but I like the actual one. I like the tone Neville. So I know Neville. I've come to know Neville a bit, but I like the tone Neville uses, and I like the words that he's chosen to actually put together. And this is what I'm talking about. It's the little nuances and subtleties in what Neville was saying, which is less direct than the 5 questions that I've just put on the screen here. So these 5 questions are pretty succinct. But the way Neville has actually dealt with them in how he talks to an imaginary conversation with a protege is what I'm talking about in terms of being a sensible, sensitive, and subtle way of going about it.
Right.
Thanks. Does anyone else have something to say at this point?
Yes, I do. I think the 7 reasons you gave for that a mentor does, they're absolutely brilliant. I think they really, for me, sum up what a mentor should be doing. Incidentally, I've been taking screenshots of all this fantastic information you put up because I can really identify with it.
Oh, good. So, Mark,
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll just send it. I'll send it through to Neville because he probably has everyone's email address, and then you're welcome to have a PDF of it. Yeah. But
I'd
also,
love that.
just put your email in the chat, Mark, and
Okay.
at the end of the meeting, when I get the PDF from Clifford, I'll send it out to everyone who wants it.
Okay.
So just a curiosity, Mark. I sort of working in a bank. I go and visit a lot of clients, and there was a guy. There was a company that has done exceptionally well. That makes milk powder, and is now owned by a French company. Just recently been bought out by a French company. And what
Right.
impressed the New Zealand management of the new French shareholder, new French parent, new French
Yes.
owner, was that the French management, even if they had a PDF version of what was being discussed in the boardroom, they still took notes. So I reckon it's a good idea that I think it's a good thing that you're taking notes. I'm glad to hear that, because
Thanks.
it's always a reference point, even if you are getting the PDF copy, to just to add in a few notes here and there. And I think that's a very good, just a very practical way of triggering things in your mind.
Right.
Okay, so let's go on to our next idea. Why be a mentor? Okay, so this is probably quite. So what I'm going to do is I'll put up the point, and then if we want to chat about it, we can do that. So why be a mentor? To me, this is probably the first one. Is probably one of the most important to me, because believe it or not, I think a mentor, the mentor probably learns, unbeknown to the mentee protege, more from the experience than what the mentee learns. Because you actually see, one of the best experiences in life I always maintain is going to a place you've been to before and seeing it through the eyes of your children, how they react. And so this is sort of resonates with this point, that you actually have a bit of knowledge in your head, you give it to someone, and the way they use it, actually you have a different take on it, and it improves the knowledge that you have. This is also important. So you have, it's not necessarily, and I'll touch on this now, remains productive. So what this is assuming is that there are senior members in your club, and if you make them a mentor, they benefit from becoming a mentor themselves, and you retain them, and it's not just like retaining their membership, it's actually providing an opportunity for them to give back to your club, and I think that's very sound, right? But I do think it doesn't have to be someone who's senior to a junior or less knowledgeable member of your club. I feel that it's a reverse, and you'll see this term later on, it's a reverse mentor relationship. I don't know Pathways very well. I am a president of a club. One of my members knows Pathways very well. So I'm actually quite okay with going to that person and saying, look, this is where I'm at. Can you teach me and I'll teach you? And as we go forward, or a member who doesn't know anything about Pathways either. So it's like the blind leading the blind. And slowly you give yourself sight as you go through the program together. So it's not a mentorship relationship. It's a one-on-one relationship that you're doing. But the point is both of you are growing together and you're both feeding each other, and it can get wider, and it can get wider than just that particular Pathways sort of basis of your relationship. You could then say to one person, look, I'm an area director this year. I think you should try it the next year. And it leads on to other things. So I think we've sort of touched on this already. You do something for others, it gives you a lot of pleasure, and it makes people feel good about themselves. Receives recognition. So I think Kiwis do this quite well, exceptionally well, I should say. So in New Zealand, there is a humbleness about people where they won't seek recognition, they are given recognition. And I like the Maori word mana. I think that some degrees that's what mana means. It's not that you go and seek recognition, it's that people give you recognition. They actually say you have mana because you've done this, or you've actually led your community well, or you've helped someone out in a very difficult position. And it's something that you're accredited with. You don't get it. So I think receiving recognition, and when you, so this person who helped the man from Sri Lanka in my club, I see that she gets recognition. She doesn't look for it, she gets it. And that type of recognition is goal to that person. I feel it's an intangible feeling of goodness that you get because you've helped someone and other people are recognizing you that you've helped someone. To me, that is very, very important. Okay, at this point, should I just stop and just get some feedback or input from other people? Sangeeta, do you have something you want to put there?
No, I'm fine. I'm good.
You're good. You're good. Okay, and anyone else?
Well, Clifford, for me, it's, gosh, you've given me such, you know, informative definitions to what a mentor is, because I'm currently a mentor to a man from, you know, India, but he may as well be from Sri Lanka if we're talking about one culture mentoring another culture. And I didn't really want it because I felt there was a huge age difference. And so that's what I dealt with when I interacted with this person, and found out that I had underestimated his age by 15 years, his appearance. Jeez. I know, this is, you know, because in my club, we've got quite a few young people who are professional and they're absolutely confident, articulate, you know, fantastic in terms of how they explain themselves. And I just didn't want to, I didn't classify myself in that league, and found out this guy was 45, not 30, you know. It's sort of like, so anyway, got
all
that
right.
out of the road. And but he's also an IT expert, and you know, I'm very tentative the way I mentor, but what I realized with this guy is I think he really wanted objective set and things like that. So what I did is I got it. He's going to do his icebreaker speech, and he's actually prepared it. And I'm so thankful that what you said about keeping it brief and just having a theme, and that's exactly what we've done. He's identified 3 pieces of his education, and he's going to, you know, expand on that. But I did ask him, could he bring an outline of his speech to our next meeting?
Oh,
and
good.
That was amazing. He actually sent me his icebreaker speech, and on the same documents, you know, I added some suggestions. And this is really great because, you know, he's got it down to about 7 minutes. But can I also say that when I did propose that, and we had a meeting, he said he wasn't prepared and he cancelled.
Oh, yeah.
I immediately, all these kind of thoughts came up, and I must say they weren't very nice thoughts that I thought maybe, but basically he was just being very assertive and actually confident, you know, he wanted to come to the next meeting, which he did, you know, fully prepared, because I think I used the word, I'd like this meeting to be productive and for us to achieve, you know, what we want to, not just ad lib and yes, something like that. But yeah. When he cancelled out and then came to the next one, he was totally prepared, had questions, etc., which I answered.
Have a look at the mentoring module in Pathways.
Yes.
There is a separate mentoring program, and it looks at the entire mentoring process. It also has quite a bit of documentation. You know, there's a goal setting sheet where what do you intend, or what would you like to gain in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months?
I'd like to add something. You know, actually, I've been in Toastmasters, but I had no idea what I was heading for. So it was only when I met Neville and he shared with this goal sheet, and that's when I, you know, and I even asked him, like, I don't even know what are my goals. So as a mentor, he actually guided, what do you want to do in 3 months? What do you want to do in 6 months? And then over a year. And that's when I realized that, okay, so I can actually finish my levels in the first 3 months and then to the next one. And then, you know, and then maybe even participate for this contest. Especially, that's my goal, that I want to go and give a speech in the international platform. So that's my goal. So it got
Very
a
good.
good reaction.
Yes, great.
Very cool. Very cool.
And it also has that mentoring program module also has other documents that'll keep both parties online. There's a log sheet, you know, each time you meet, what was achieved, what's for the next meeting. So it just keeps you on track.
Yeah, provides a backbone.
Yeah. I've found it very good.
Good work, people.
Gee, thanks.
Should we move on?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So here's a person that I sometimes think is quite funny, and teach you the force I will. He always has his syntax the wrong way around. When I think of mentoring someone, I think of Jodi, and I think his name is Jodi. Is his name Jodi or Jedi? Jodi. Anyway, I forgot. I'll have to get one of my sons or my daughter to tell me what this guy's name is. But he is a mentor.
Yes.
So how to be a good protege. So this is important because as a mentor, you're still in your back of your mind. You must keep the flip side of this coin going in your head, because you want to be you want to be mentored by the person you're mentoring as well. So take charge of your own development. So as a mentor or as a protege, you want to take charge of your own development. But then I think what Neville and Sangeeta have put together is that they put a plan that actually puts that together. And this is what this is all about. Take charge of your own development. And again, what Neville and Sangeeta have talked about, set their own timetable. It's not up to Neville to drive the timetable. It's up to Sangeeta to say, this is what I want to do by this time. And Neville just to say, okay, cool. Maybe this is a bit tight, or maybe this might be, you want to take a bit more time on this, but it's this open discussion. Very important, have the ability to receive constructive feedback. So as a mentor, when someone's, and this is what sometimes I shouldn't really admit to this, constructive feedback, I do take it without a doubt. What I like to do is I like to get all my evaluations that I've had. Let's say I've had 10 evaluations in a year, and then I try and trace, is there a theme in my evaluations that I'm doing wrong? And then I'll say, all right, I'm doing this wrong. I tend to walk around the lectern like a caged lion. And you laugh, Mark. And people from different clubs, not from the same club, people from different clubs say, Clifford, you are doing your caged lion again. And that's on different evaluations. So yeah, so that's constructive feedback to me. I have to take that on board and try and get around there. Yes, keep in touch with your mentor, but be respectful of the mentor's time. So how you get around that, I think, is that you catch up once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, to go through it, just as a suggested time frame. And as a protege, just like the mentor has to listen, you as the protege have to listen as well. Listening, in my mind, is more important than talking in this particular environment.
Also, one thing that the mentor does is that helps you to go and read this book, or there's this training happening over here, so he gives that information to the protege, and it's up to the protege to go and attend it, and
yes, so that's a very good point. Yep.
Yes.
And there are lots of good books to read about talking and getting things done. So benefits to the club?
Yes.
Right. So this is a bit long, and I should have actually cut this down a bit. So what this is saying is it does benefit the club. It involves the members. It also highlights the fact that the members amongst themselves must be committed to each other, and therefore by inference are committed to the club. Okay. But this is an important part of the benefits to the club. have more members. So if you're running a very successful club and there's a very active mentoring program, I'm going to say, without empirical evidence, just on pure intuition, that's going to be a very successful club. In fact, that club's going to have more than 25 members. If you, okay, so that's a bit of hubris, I suppose. But what I'm trying to get at here is that if you have a very active membership program in your club where people, and this is what's so good about the environment within Toastmasters, it's a very safe environment. It's not a negatively competitive environment. You're allowed to make mistakes. And most importantly, everyone is trying to help everyone else and be helped. So mentoring is just that particular aspect turbocharged. You have more satisfied members. Members continue to learn and grow and enjoy their club experience. The last 4 words: enjoy the club experience. Longevity. So is there any activity within your club that actually plans more than 1 year down the track?
Right. Yes.
There isn't one. From what I can understand, it's always because you're always passing on the baton to someone else after a year. But mentoring transcends those boundaries, those limits. So to me, a huge benefit of mentoring, a mentoring program that it becomes the culture of the club, is that you're guaranteeing the longevity of that club. Okay. This is just a slide that I came across, and it might be blocked out on the right-hand corner. The greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss, but that it's too low and we reach it. Yeah, so remember the words that I've used before. What does a mentor do? If he just gets this objective 1% right, he creates a better version of yourself. If you are just 1% better than what you previously were as a result of a relationship or input from a mentor, that's more than anything you can ask for, in a sense.
Wow.
Okay, so now we get to the sort of guts of mentoring. In other words, how do we go about doing it? So the first meeting, the mentor's duties will vary. So what this is saying here is that if I'm mentoring a person new to the club, then I'm going to have a different set of criteria to take to that meeting or to that relationship. If I'm mentoring someone who's at a level 4 in pathways and needs to go to level 5 and he's slowed down or he hasn't come forward with a speech for a while, then the approach there is completely different. So this is what this particular sentence is recognizing. So don't when you have your ubiquitous cup of coffee with a guy, flat white I should say, don't pump it, don't make it all the information, slam it into one meeting. Just have one subject that you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be more than one, and talk about it. The most important thing about that meeting is talk about it, but set up another meeting at another time, so that you can actually extend on it. Within the actual club environment, in the meeting when you see the new member, have someone sit with that member, so that he can just get an idea of what's happening within the club at that point in time. So the first meeting, the icebreaker. So we've touched on this already, but why is this one of the most important speeches I think that anyone gives? Is because there are 2 things. I think there are 3 things that people that are certain in life that people are afraid of or whatever. And one is tax. The other one is speaking in front of people. I think that was, I've forgotten his name. He said that. Or the second part is attributed to that, but I don't know if he said that. The fear of speaking in front of people is one of the highest in the hierarchy of fears, right? And why is it most difficult? Why is this the case within a Toastmaster environment? Because you're asking someone to stand up in front of people he doesn't know and to actually almost voluntarily be vulnerable in front of these people. So this is why that first meeting and the icebreaker is so important. The next meeting, you can take about explaining the roles of the officers and the information that they can provide. So what does the treasurer do? What does the president do? What does the VP education do? We live in a world where we seek approval more than what we have done so ever in the past in the social environment. Some actual people have called it approval porn. But I'm not saying that you go down that road. Give positive feedback where it's due, but make sure that you give it, but don't make it a sugar-coated pill. Explain responsibilities. So this is, at this particular meeting, I would say and it doesn't have to go in this particular meeting, but it's just over a number of meetings. What is that member's responsibility to the club, and what is the club's responsibility to the member? Probably the most important, help with speeches and other assignments. Over time, reverse mentoring. So you tell the protege how much you have learned from this relationship that you've had with that person. You invite other protege to other events. So an area club contest, a division club contest, the district conference. You invite him if he so wishes to be an area director. You acknowledge his progress at that stage. You explain other officers' duties with a view to saying to him at this time, why don't you want to put up your hand to be a sergeant at arms or VP membership, something along those lines. You explain speech contests. To me, a contests in a club environment are very important because I think that they provide the glue for a club. Because why? Because all the members have to come together to make that event in that particular meeting. And you actually bind people together when they're put under pressure and have to get something right and do something by a certain time. All right. Before I push on to the summary, does anybody want to add anything that they might need to think that they want to touch on here?
I've rarely met anyone who's joined Toastmasters for speech contests. Most people, when you mention contests, freak out. I know of one particular very successful Toastmaster, has 8 DTM awards, has been a district director, and has managed to avoid contests most of her life. She has entered 1 contest in 16 years.
Jeez. Yeah.
She doesn't like contests, but she judges, and yeah.
I think a contest, when it's a valuable learning curve, because what you learn in 6 months, you probably touch on in 7 minutes in a contest. And it's just like a toxic fuel driven environment where even if you don't win, even if you mess up, all what you have learned comes, in my mind, comes to you in those 7 minutes. And it's nice to have that sort of excitement. The excitement.
Yesterday was a classic example. We had an area humorous speech contest with 1 contestant. The table topics for the same area had 3 out of 5 clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Clubs, people don't seem to want to be involved in contests that much, especially in the non-main centres. I know Auckland's different because most of their contests are chock-a-block. But down in, I'll call them suburbia or the rural towns, people don't seem to want contests as much, but they still want the learnings that come from the organisation. and the programs.
Well, I suppose that's just someone's cup of tea, I suppose. Yeah. So before I go into the summary, can I ask each of you, are you in, so we know Sangeeta am I right in saying that the two of you, Neville and Sangeeta, are together in a sort of a mentoring setup?
I'm glad you phrased that properly. Yes, we met at a Pathways mentoring workshop in the States.
Yeah.
And part of the conversation was, you know, who's available to mentor? And I had said, yes, I'm available.
Yeah.
Sangeeta's approached me, we agreed, and the processes that Sangeeta and I have both been talking about are what we have in place at the moment between us.
Yeah.
And we meet at least fortnightly, one-on-one, just for a mentoring catch-up, you know, and a progress report. If she's got a speech that she's trying to put together, she'll send it through to me. I'll look at it and go back with, you know, what would happen if you fired a few more personal experiences in this section, and then leave it up to her. It's her speech, and advice is to be either to be taken or filed away for future use. It seems to be working. I know I'm learning quite a bit from her.
Yes, it's working great. I've already done 2 speeches, of which the first one, Neville has come to our club in India, and he actually heard me giving the speech.
Very cool.
It was really a awesome moment.
Very good.
Awesome.
And you, Mark, so you say you're mentoring someone who's a lot younger than what you thought.
Yes. Yes, and I think it's my first formal mentoring. I've been in my club for 4 years, but
Wow.
I know, and well, I've just learned so much from your program, Clifford, in terms of you validating and defining, you know, with clear language, you know, what the guts is of mentoring and being a protege. But I would like to say something on my mind, and it happened when in our club we had George Lim, who's been a company CEO, owned his own company, you know, overseas, and was an importer, exporter in New Zealand. He's retired now, and he gave a speech. And then a young man who was only 30-something, Chinese, said to him he shouldn't use the word that somebody's not advanced or that somebody's inexperienced, because the pejorative is, it's kind of lending a kind of class reductionist system. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just so surprised, because this young Chinese guy goes to university, and he was sort of saying to my friend George Lim, you know, that he's not inexperienced, and he is advanced in whatever field he is. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
We're using inexperience in the word not advanced, but what does that mean? Are we not advanced in the club's objectives, but we're advanced in life? So that sort of thing. I'm still using those terms, but you get how that came up in a club situation, and that's just made me sensitive to sometimes the words we use can be judgmental, but not in but we're not aware of it, you know, when we're mentoring and protegeing, and I'm very cognitive of that.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing I found with mentoring, hope people don't mind, is I couldn't understand some of the sentences that my protege was saying, and I had to ask him again twice, and then I had to then give an explanation, you know, that. And what I found is I just wasn't getting the accent, you know, and so, yeah, that was really difficult for me. And I was thinking, we were doing the mentoring by phone, and so what I've done is I've said to him, if you're going to use long words, just say them slowly, because I feel
Yeah.
And you know, and I've begun to really understand it. We've had about 3 sessions together, so they're still going. But you know, I had a lot of learning issues. Yes.
I actually
Interaction issues.
find, Mark, that when I'm mentoring, Zoom sessions are great. And it doesn't matter whether I'm mentoring someone in Wellington, which is 2 hours down the road, or Palmerston, which is 45 minutes. It's more convenient, and believe it or not, it's more personal face to face. Yes, I could pick a phone up and talk to Sangeeta, but I wouldn't know how she's reacting to what I'm saying or what I'm suggesting. Face to face, it's a lot easier to communicate. So
Yes.
most of my mentoring sessions and coaching sessions are done on Zoom, one by one, and that's how these workshops came about.
No, I do understand. Yes, we're up. My last our last session for an hour. You know, we keep it to an hour. Was on Zoom, and I've got one this afternoon from 5 to 6. So.
Yeah,
good. All right, so I just want to summarize where we're at. So why mentoring? That's about the need for, I think, a mentoring program within our, or not that we don't have a mentoring program, more emphasis or more awareness of it should be put together. We looked at a definition of mentoring, a very simple one. We looked at mentorship programs, and what, to me, it is a program, but it's a program adapted to New Zealand ways. And it's not that sausage making factory machine that might be inferred in other Toastmaster material. Well, that's my take on it. So please don't be offended if your interpretation is different. Default learning, that's a very powerful aspect from my point of view, in the sense that a mentoring relationship, whether it's a full on or diluted or it's there in very small amounts. But that's something that you want to avoid, because if you can avoid someone else's mistake, you save time and effort for yourself. And that if someone gives that to you freely, you must take it. What does a mentor do? We touched on that, yes. 5 questions, though, these were probably, those 5 questions resonated me the most about what, as if I'm going to mentor something, I'm going to say to myself, Clifford, keep these 5 questions in mind, because they were very punchy, succinct, and I'm not saying that you go and ask them along those particular lines, but have those as in the back of your mind in your mentorship role. Why be a mentor? Yeah, we touched on that. How to be a good protege, that's the flip side of the coin. So that actually improves your own ability to be a mentor if you are also being a protege as well. A practical approach, we've just touched upon that, and set it out into different time frame. And all the elements of that. So that's the end of this particular presentation. I hope that the 3 of you, and I've certainly enjoyed giving it. I really have enjoyed putting it together, because, as I've told you in the beginning, in my own personal experience, I need to improve my mind and improve my take on mentorship. And this is why I undertook this particular task, so that I got my head around it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed it. Is there anything anyone wants to say by way of, so if I go to this particular one, you'll understand. Are there any questions? Is there any feedback on the approach that I took here? Just general comment.
Colin, what's your thoughts?
Oh, yes.
Where is Colin?
Colin, right.
Okay. I know Colin's out in a very rural area, and
I thought he might have dropped off, because I never saw him come up in the gallery. I can't see him in the gallery now.
He very rarely has his video going, but he does have audio most of the time when he's been around.
All right. I must learn from that one. Yeah.
How did you find it, Sangeeta? What's your thoughts?
I think it was a very well chalked out presentation. Definitely, it's going to help. I have taken the learnings from here to present it, because I was actually thinking of putting up a presentation on mentoring in my club. So this is going to really help me. And the way Cliff, the way you engaged us was really good. You got us to talk about our thoughts and share our experience. And when that happens, you really are, you've actually hooked us. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yes, I'd like to thank you very much, Clifford. There's a couple of terms that have really expanded my mind. Default learning. Gosh, I just had no idea there is something happening in our club all the time, right in front of us. And me being cognizant of that, I can see where if everybody got a mentor when they entered our club, it could, sustain members and increase membership. That was really good. And I like how you gave your view of someone from South Africa describing New Zealanders, because I feel some of that is within me. We're so compassionate to somebody else's view. Sometimes we're not too direct. We'll sort of say something. We'll take 10 minutes to say something, and I feel you're a person who could just say it like that and plow through all that kind of, mist and fog. But I do recognize it as a character, of our country. We're more likely to be, to decline or to what you're saying, even though we really object to it. And, and also I didn't notice a lot of ums and ahs in your presentation, but sometimes when you're thinking, you say the word over and over again.
Oh, see. All right, good stuff.
With me, I'm more likely to make choking sounds when I can't think of what I'm going to say next.
Well, thanks very much, Mark.
It's just something I noticed because, yeah.
Everyone has their own little idiosyncrasies.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm really pulled up for noisy filler words,
Oh, yeah.
but I am pulled up quite often for not excessive use of pause, but pausing in the wrong spot.
That's called a blank mind.
No. I know what I'm going to say. I just pause before I go on to the next point. It's like halfway through a sentence.
Right.
So timing's important, Neville.
Yeah.
Okay, Neville, I've sent you my email.
Yep, I've got that.
Oh, good. Thanks a lot. Yes.
And I will also send out a little handbook that was put together by Wainui Amata Toastmasters, which I've adapted. They have a very strong mentoring program there, right. And it's one of the reasons why they've been President's Distinguished for the last 12 years in a row. Wow. The club's only 13 years old.
Amazing.
So,
awesome.
And even though I'm no longer in the area, I still follow them closely.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to add something. If it's like a Toastmasters meeting, if I was a grammarian, I would like to point out the beautiful uses of words, especially Mark. He's used such fantastic words and so appropriately, he used cognitive, cognizant, and pejorative. And I was actually noting down those words, and when we are talking or generally talking, it doesn't come up. So I think I want to take that away from you.
Thank you. Gosh, great. Thank you, Sangeeta. Right. Okay. Is it over and out?
Yes, it will be over and out in a few minutes. I will stop. If no one's got anything else to say, I will stop the recording now.
Yeah, we'll wait for your the handbook that you're going to share.
Yep.
Neville.
And I've just sent you the actual PowerPoint, Neville.
Yep. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
no, I'd
you.
love it. Okay.
Everything.
Okay, guys.